Take a walk with destiny. Walk on the trail of your life. Live your soul's purpose. Hosted by Jessica Joins, each show is dedicated to revealing your true calling and living a life of fulfillment. Each guest brings inspirational stories that help clear the way for your higher calling. You can listen to her show once a month on the uimediaapp.com, WDJY 99.1 FM, WTTA 101.2 FM, Talk10FM.com, Facebook Live on United Intentions, Spreaker, and many other platforms. Want to join the conversation? Call in now at 678-495-4345. So let's unwind, rest your mind, and let your spirit free to find your soul purpose.
Hello, everyone. This is Soul Purpose with Jessica Joins. Welcome wherever you are watching or listening from. I want to give a special shout out to my friends at WDJY 99.1 FM. And hello, our friends from WTTA 101.2 FM in Kentucky and Ohio. Happy Monday to everyone. We have an incredible show for you today, if I do say so myself. I have a dear friend coming on who I admire and look up to. She has created an incredible soul purpose tool called the Life Brief, and she is going to tell us all about it today. It's going to be a good, fun-packed show. And first, before we get into it, as you all know, I shared a lot last time about the Women's Purpose Retreat I had been working on. Well, we had it last week. Again, this is a retreat that I lead for executive, kind of high-powered business women that come together, share, commune, and really work on expanding their self-awareness, their consciousness, and their purpose. And it was so interesting for me last week to really watch all these beautiful, successful, powerful women coming together and sharing some of their innermost vulnerabilities. Really, it was powerful, and it reminded me of something really important that I wanted to share, and that is the notion that you have to feel to release. You know, I believe that each of us has a highest, best, I call it the true self, that lives within us. And within us and there, everything is perfect. Everything is whole, is complete. So we don't need to go find our true self. We don't need to go find things like abundance. We don't need to go find things like compassion or empowerment or confidence. Those are all things that live within us. But what happens is we create all these blocks. We adopt fear. We engage with fear as truth, not our teacher. And we create all these blocks and barriers over time that really block our light and don't allow our true self to shine through. And this was the work that we all did together last week. And it was so powerful. And so whatever you're doing, whatever you're coming home from work, whatever you're doing, what I just remind you is we've all got our stuff. And the only way to really let your truth come through is to just be willing to release. And to release, you got to be willing to feel. Okay. So a couple things. We are going to do our segment that we always do before we bring Bonnie on, and that is our 6 soul purpose truths for this November 11th, 2019. And tonight, we're doing them in honor of our guest and of our show title, which is about honoring what you want in life. So you ready? Okay. So truth number 1 for this week of 11/11 is your heart is your truth center. This is such a hard one for us to grasp and understand and believe, but I promise you that the truth of your soul speaks to you through your heart. Your higher self speaks to you through your heart. So what you hear and tune into there is not false. It's not an illusion. It is your highest truth. Number 2, what your heart communicates to you about your wants are unique to you. So all the stuff that's coming in, that's speaking to you through your heart, especially about those innermost wants, passions, and desires, Those are unique to you. Those are things you signed up to explore. So honor them. Don't dismiss them, honor them. Which brings us to soul purpose truth number 3. These wants are clues, if not answers, about the highest potential for your life. Again, if you're passionate about dancing, if you're passionate or truly just want more time in your life, that is your higher self communicating to you what you signed up to explore. There is a connection. It's not random. It's not by accident. And so that brings us now to soul truth number 4, which is your ego, aka the voice of fear that presents itself as the voice of reason, will come in and tell you all the reasons why what you want in your heart will never happen, isn't possible, is unrealistic, is blah, 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 blah. Okay? Your job is to ignore it, because soul purpose truth number 5, we are all here. The lesson you are here to master, if you will, in Earth School is to rise above this fear, to not listen to this fear, and to acknowledge, follow, and pursue the truths that are coming to you through your heart. That is what you are here to do. Which takes us to our final soul purpose truth, number 6. Again, for this special 11/11 day, is that honoring what comes from your heart is what you have signed up to do. Okay. So now I would love to bring on our guest for today. And let me tell you first a little bit about her. So Bonnie Wan, she is a creator, a speaker, and the author of The Life Brief. It is a tool that helps people live with intention and imagination. She's also a partner and head of brand strategy. We'll understand what that is in a second, at Goodby Silverstein and Partners, a world-renowned advertising agency. And so in 2010 is when Bonnie created this Life Brief, and it was during a time of crisis in her life. And she used it to solve some major challenges in her life. And so now we're going to bring her on and ask her all about that. Hello, Bonnie. Welcome to the show.
Hi, Jessica. It's so good to be here.
I am so excited to have you on. So I've been so excited for
Thanks
this.
for having me.
Of course. Of course. So let's get right into it, shall we? Take us back, if you will, to that moment in 2010. Can you paint for our audience what was going on in your life at that time?
Sure. Yeah, it's so vivid still. So in 2010, I just had my 3rd child, Ruby. And so she was about 6 months old, and I'd returned back to work, a big job. I was in an advertising agency, the one I'm still at, and really navigating the juggling and the balance of a big job and 3 kids under 5 and a marriage. And that was really weighing me down. I was really struggling with how to be there for my children, how to honor my commitment to my husband, and how to hold a skyrocketing career and job altogether. And as we were navigating it, we weren't navigating it very well. My husband and I were really at each other's, throats a bit. We were negotiating time and fighting over time, much more than we were loving each other or caring for each other as we had promised. So it was a real crisis of meaning. I remember being in the parking lot of the grocery store in Petaluma, California, where we lived, and it was raining that day. And I was sitting in a car talking to one of my dear girlfriends, and I was saying out loud, asking out loud what I have now come to call the unbearable questions. Did I marry the right person? He's a really, really good man, but is he right for me and the life we created? Can I hold all of this? And perhaps the hardest question of all, what if I can't? And what does that look like? And as usual in our crazy busy lives, those questions did not get answered in the parking lot of Whole Foods, but they did weigh on me, and they stayed with me for many months. And then I had an opportunity to go on a work trip and go back and visit my parents and sit in my childhood home. So I'd come home late at night, finished work, and I was sitting at our kitchen table alone. Something happens when you're back in your childhood home, you kind of come back to your true self, that formative self, the self that had all those difficult imprints, and a spark of true brutal honesty came out, and those questions, they just kept haunting me. What if I can't hold all of this? Now, as a strategist in advertising for the last 20 years, my practice has been, hey, let's help our clients get to the essence of it. Cut through the bullshit, cut through the distractions. Let's get to the heart of, what does this company stand for? What is this company's purpose? Why does it exist? And take it down to that core center and that element. And so that's what I did in the kitchen of my parents' home. I got down to the bottom of it all. And the question I was trying to really answer is, what really matters? Really, really matters at the end of the day, right? Not my title, not having this house, not, holding all the meetings and the calendar, the schedule, but what really, really matters. And then that's what came out. It was my first life brief, which had just really 7 simple points. And the first one at the top of it was about time. Time with my children, time with my husband, and time for myself. And then, what unfolded around that was about the education for my kids so that they could thrive as people, not just as brains or small minds that were growing. It wasn't just about academics, but it was about their character. And it was about participating in a community where we really felt held, and we were active, and we were sharing the same values. So 7 interesting points came out, and I emailed them to my husband. And after months of fighting, he wrote back in all caps, YES, exclamation, exclamation, exclamation. It was the first moment of alignment that we had had in maybe a year. And that was a huge release for me.
Yeah.
We immediately got on the phone and we talked about it. And we said, okay. He said, yes, this is what I want too. I said, great. How are we going to go after this? And we came to a really clear agreement, which we hold today still, which is we're not going to allow fear to get in the way. This is absolutely what we want. This is what matters most. So we will not be the family that puts everything else ahead of it, someday when. We were not going to be the someday when family or couple.
Yeah, I love
so we
that.
said right now, we want this brief right now. And we're going to let go of our biggest fears. The first fear was leaving where we are right now, letting go of what we currently have, because we needed to make room for this new brief to come to life. The second fear was around money. And that's the big one. What if I have to leave my job? Where will the money come from? Where will this brief show up? And so we committed right there that we're not going to let fear of money or fear of letting go and leaving the core ingredients that we had at the moment. We weren't going to let those things stop us. And then that's when the adventure began.
Wow. So incredible, because, so many families or folks would give up in that moment, and you didn't. And I truly, I can't wait to hear more about what that journey has been like and looks like for you and your husband and your family when we come back in just a little bit here. So you're watching Soul Purpose with Jessica Joins, and we will be back in just a few minutes.
This is Kurt Arsenault of Arsenault Advisory Group. Most of us never think we'll get divorced. Unfortunately, half of marriages will end in divorce. Children are always the first priority, but getting your finances in order will need to be addressed. The first step is to get an assessment of where you are financially. Will you keep your home? Do one or both of you have a 401k or pension? Who will pay for the kids' college education? Will you split your debt liabilities? These are just a few things to consider when thinking about divorce. Visit arsenaultadvisory.com and download our free ebook titled 6 Things to Do Before You Get Divorced. Don't wait. Visit arsenaultadvisory.com today.
Welcome back. This is Soul Purpose with Jessica Joins, and we're talking with Bonnie Wan. I want to let everybody know that we want to take your questions. So you can call us at 678-495-4345 or send us a note on Facebook and we will answer all of your questions live. Also, you can now watch and listen to all exclusive and uncensored content 24/7 at uimediaapp.com. And we are back with Bonnie Wan. Bonnie, we were talking about fear. And
Yes.
you know, at the retreat this last week, which I'm so sorry that you missed, but I know you'll be there next year, we spent a lot of time talking about fear. And I'll explain to you how I think about it. And I would love to hear how you think about it and how it really informed this, because you don't hear this every day that someone says, we're not going to let fear get in the way, because most of us, fears come up and we just engage with it as truth, like right off the bat. It's just like, yep, true, take an action, create a small life. And there's so many acronyms for it, like false evidence appearing real. And I've really come to believe that a lot of what we come here to do is learn how to not engage with fear as truth, but know when it's showing up, it's mirroring something to us that's really showing us something within us that needs to be healed or looked at. And there's always an opportunity to rise above. So if we even think about like fear as an energy, like what was it? How was it literally showing up at this time in your life? Like, what was it saying? Where was it guiding you and your family to go, in what direction? And how did you kind of look at that and go, and choose something different?
Well, it's interesting because, yes, if we had given in to fear at that moment, I think, our family would have broken up. And it's interesting, during the commercial break, there was a whole commercial around divorce, and that was so much where my family was headed at that time, was divorce. But what was the interesting thing about the act of writing down what matters most and what we really wanted together as a unit? It gave us something else to focus on. And so what it did is it turned us away from the fear, which was consuming us, and it gave us something hopeful, creative, and energetic to play with. So it was interesting. It's easy to think of that as maybe a distraction, but it was perhaps the best possible kind of distraction. I find creativity is the antidote to fear, because creativity and life is, as you know, the foundation of life is all about creation. And that's where creativity is born, right? And we as human beings, we're here in this lifetime to create. And you talk about it so much, with Soul Purpose. It is about living that life that you were uniquely put onto this planet to live, and into this life, right? And I find fear tends to draw us away from that life, and this is the tension and the work in this lifetime. And how can we disrupt that fear? By pointing ourselves towards our heart's calling, that thing that, we are all creatures wanting to express. And creativity, I think we have a very limited view of creativity in society. People think, oh, I'm not creative.
Right.
There are creative people and they're not, but we're all human.
Right. Very
and
black and white, right? Yeah.
And creation is the foundation of being human. And so creativity is, to me, in many ways, the opposite of fear. It is about possibility, and it's certainly about purpose. It's about tuning yourself in to your biggest expression, whatever that may be. And I think that's what the Life Brief became for us as a family, a vehicle and a practice for expressing what it is that we want to co-create together.
Right. So your husband says yes, right? And then what happens? I'm going to assume you had to make some choices and some decisions about some things going on in your life. And how did you do that?
Yeah.
And what were they?
It was interesting because once we had this thing staring back at us, this written piece that we both agreed with, it started to come to life in lots of different ways and differently for each of us. But what's interesting is I realized right off the bat how much time I spend distracting myself, on social media or filler time. There was a lot of filler time. And what happened after I wrote the brief is that time started to be occupied in a different way. Suddenly, what was just kind of time spent, habitually going through those apps or going online became much more purposeful. Suddenly, I was trying to look at, well, where are the progressive schools that I want to send my kids to? I'm from LA. My husband's from Seattle. We had good friends who had just been to Portland. And in fact, we ourselves had just vacationed in Portland the year before we wrote the brief. And we found this fantastic neighborhood. It was just teeming with life. It was where the coffee shop was. It was where the pizzeria was. It's where I bought my daughter's cupcakes. And my husband wanted to do a documentary film about this giant sunflower that was painted in this beautiful intersection as a way to create community and to draw young families into the neighborhood, which was a little bit, kind of, it had a seedy past, but it was it was blossoming. And so Portland, Seattle, of course, the Bay Area where we were, and LA, that became our kind of search ground. And I started looking up schools. My husband started looking up places to live. And 4 months later, it was really interesting. I had been having conversations about a school with my childhood best friend who lived in Portland. And she said, there is this school in Portland called Sunnyside Environmental School. It's so your values. It's hippie. It's got all kinds of stuff. The calendar is based on, the seasons. And I thought, that's great. Of course, I went on the website. It was a public school website. Nothing, no information, nothing of distinction. But then, right after Memorial Day, I got a call from my husband while I was at work. And he said, babe, remember that intersection in Portland, Oregon? That one with the big sunflower? And I said, yeah, of course. And he said, remember the corner house? Well, it's available. And I thought, oh, wow, yes. That's exactly the type of community we had envisioned when we wrote it in the brief. And I said, okay, but let's find out about the schools, find out about the school situation. And he called back 2 hours later and he said, there is a school, it's at the end of the block, and it's called Sunnyside Environmental School. And I thought, what?
That is crazy.
So, boom, the community of the school. Two big puzzle pieces of the brief had just showed up, at our doorstep. And I said, yes, this is it. And so there were 4 other applications. The owner was in Sweden. We sent a box to him of photos of our family, our marriage vows, and our brief. And we said, we think this house is the brief come to life. And we got the house. Now, we got the house, but we hadn't even been up there to look at the house or the school. It was just this faithful presence and energy that pulled us forward. And believe me, we had a moment of, wait a second, are we crazy? We just signed a lease and put down first month's rent, and we have not even walked into that house. So we flew the family up to Portland, Oregon, and it was better than we could have imagined. And I said, I think we won the lottery of the universe, because literally on that exact block was every single thing we needed, from the school to the grocery store to the coffee shop to the pizzeria and the cupcake store, and this incredible, vibrant community. And the house was indescribably us as a family. And then it just kept unfolding. The brief just kept unfolding, because we came back to California and I had to go quit my job. Oh my gosh. That was terrifying, because every step becomes more terrifying because the brief becomes more real. And you have to ask yourself, do I really want this? How committed am I to really walking this life that I put on paper?
Yeah. Let me do this really quick, because it's really bringing up something for me. This is back in 2010. Like when I'm hearing your story, it is a living example. I mean, I have a lot of different spiritual practices, but law of attraction, like ask, believe, receive. And it feels like that brief in that moment, you asked, you believe it was possible, and you really opened yourself up to receiving. So it's not like you were working through a list and going, okay, now we're going to do this and take little actions. It just, you open this force of energy. So my question is, were you familiar with these different spiritual tools and practices at the time, or was this just like innately came in through you and you just kind of stepped into it? Do you know what I mean?
It's a good question. I think in reflection, it's always been in me. Yeah. So I think I've always played with this, even as a small child, conjuring something, being very clear about it, and then having it realize itself. And we talk a lot about we will what we want, and it has nothing, it has some will to it, right? You show up and you take the actions that are in front of you, and that are pulling you forward. But then there's magic that unleashes itself, it meets your actions. The universe meets your actions with, by unveiling some surprises that you could not have even anticipated. So I think through my life, I can count, I can visualize all the moments when this practice, unbeknownst to me, unconsciously to me, was playing out in my life. But then I did, I saw The Secret. I had a good friend, my dear soul sister friend, Cindy, brought over The Secret one night when we lived in Petaluma.
I was going to I had just started going to Agape like 2 years before, with Michael Beckwith, like 2 years before that came out. So I think we watched.
He is the preacher, you know. Totally. So I was introduced, but I think there was resistance. I had a lot of resistance when I first tapped into it. Now I have zero, of course, but this was 10, 11 years ago. But I think that's where the seed was consciously planted. And then now I have come to discover that, this is really a practice of manifestation.
And I feel like you really, part of the key, which I've struggled with, be totally honest here. I feel like you really, all of you, this little family unit, the way I'm visualizing it, really, you opened yourself up to the receiving of it and being worthy, which is so important. A lot of times we focus on the asking and the vision board and believing even, but that receiving part is so critical. And I feel like intuitively that's why things just flourished for you.
But it is messy and it is hard. So I don't want, because we're talking on this show and we're, sharing stories, I don't want to overlook how hard it is to receive.
Yeah.
How much questioning goes into, is this what I really want? Because as it starts showing up, that's when you start to.
Yeah. Well, we're going to discuss more of it when we come back. Again, you're watching Soul Purpose with Jessica Joins, and we'll be right back.
Hi, this is Amy and Gina from In the Burbs, and we want to talk to you about your roof. Do you have a sexy roof?
If you have wind damage or your roof is older, or are you looking to purchase a home and want to make sure the roof is in good shape, you need to contact Roofing and Exterior Solutions. #SexyRoofs.
#SexyRoofs will inspect your roof, take pictures, and give you a free estimate, and they will handle the insurance process.
#SexyRoofs have been in business for over a decade and have always been right here in Georgia.
Their crews have been with them forever. They really are experts for anything roofing. Contact roofingandexteriorsolutions.com or find them on social media at #SexyRoofs.
Welcome back. This is Soul Purpose with Jessica Joins, and we're talking with Bonnie Wan. First, I have a couple exciting announcements. First, UI Media Network. We are looking for like-minded interns to assist us in getting the network's message out. If this sounds like you, email us at contact@uimedianetwork.org, or you can call us at 678-495-4345 to connect. And also make sure you wake up tomorrow to watch the Awaken Atlanta show with Tim Ray and co-host Shannon McPhee. Tomorrow's guest will be acclaimed author and spiritual leader Lucy McMonigal. There, I got it right. Also on the show, there will be feminine leadership and success coach Francois Everett. Wonderful. So we are talking with Bonnie Wan all about the life brief, her incredible tool that she created to manifest the life of her dreams. Bonnie, take us into, you're quitting the job, you're kind of moving on, all these things are happening. When do you start realizing that you have created something really powerful and tangible that needs to be shared, right? Because nowadays you speak on this, you've got a life brief retreat coming up in Costa Rica. Like, this has blown up really big for you. If I do say so myself. When did you realize whoa, I've got to start sharing this? What was that journey like for you?
Well, it's interesting because I think ideas are alive. Again, I'm in the creative business, right? And there are some ideas, right? Like your idea, they have a life of their own. So
you know the book that changed my life on that, actually? Did you ever read Big Magic by Elizabeth Gilbert?
No, but that is on my list.
Yes, this is your book. This is your book.
Okay, I'm going to do it. I'm going to do it.
Yeah.
No, I think ideas are really alive, and the good ones keep knocking at your door. So I have to say that it wasn't even my intention. But first, my company said, hey, can you teach something? We need all our leaders to teach something that is outside of the work, the advertising work. And I said, okay. And I thought, well, maybe I'll teach this, writing a creative brief for your life, because it's worked for me. And it's opened up this vast journey. And I was terrified about talking about this, because this is at its heart, it's creativity, and creativity is spiritual. But we don't talk about that in the business world.
Yeah.
Or we are now, thanks to people like you, right?
No, but I hear you. It's
the hard conversation. I call it.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I call it my coming out of the closet moment at the company, because I was really going to open up some beliefs that I didn't know were acceptable. And what was interesting is that first talk was standing room only. People came and they were really captivated. And I think it struck a chord in people. This idea that, wait a second, I can have a voice in the life that unfolds around me. And I was surprised at how much of a revelation that was for some people. In fact, there was a young British rising star, who was so brave in the first session. And he asked, what if what if you've never asked yourself what you really, really want?
Yeah. Yes.
And you could feel the room share his sentiment. He was like,
Yeah.
where do you start? And so I think in that moment, I realized, my God, people don't know. People don't know that they can design a life. They can um, have the steering wheel of life and take it. And it doesn't have to look like hard work. It does require an open heart and an open mind and a readiness to be vulnerable and honest, because real honesty feels terrifying sometimes. The unbearable questions I was talking about earlier, confronting the unbearable questions.
Bonnie, why do you think though? Because what I'll hear a lot too in the work that I do, I say, first passion first, then like line up the gifts behind it, but lead with passion. And I'll hear the same thing is like, I don't really have any passions, which if you're a human being on this planet, like, that can't be true. But what do you think it happens that we don't know what we want or don't think about what we want or don't explore? Like, what is that? Do you know?
Well, I think there's a lot of fear. Let's go back to fear,
Yeah.
right? We fear what the answers are going to be, right? So my question was, what if I can't hold this life, all these ingredients, this big life together anymore? Wow. What happens then? What if the answer is that I can't? So I think on the other side of those questions are some really scary answers. Those aren't the real answers once you start unpacking it, but those are the answers we fear. And so we avoid the question. I also think a condition of modern life is that we have so many ways to distract ourselves that we don't have to ever confront this question. We don't have the space, and we're certainly not creating the space, right? And I think that's why your retreat and my retreat, that's really what they're providing, is space for us to reflect and sit with some of those questions and sit with them not in the terrifying place of being alone, but to sit with those questions in a loving community, in a safe place. And break down those questions in a way that we can receive them, and from a place of creativity. I think that's what the life brief is it drops you in and allows you to enter those questions from a creative place, so from a place of clarity and then creativity.
And can you explain what you mean by that for, again, like you talked about earlier, that word creativity can really throw people in what direction? What do you mean by that? And maybe you can give some examples of the brief and how the tool works.
Yeah. So what the whole approach is very much modeled and inspired by the creative process that the most innovative companies pretty much in the world use. Nike, Apple, that's how they inspire their own innovation and creative teams, is through a thing called the brief. And the brief is a distillation. It's just like the word. It's brief. It's concise. It's a distillation of what a project or assignment is, what we have to do together, right? And so it gets it down to its bones, but then it's articulated in a really inspiring way. And so the life brief gets us to distill down through the use of creative exercises, and I call them driving questions, because they're questions that you can't really ignore. They immediately open up answers. So one of the most powerful questions in the life brief practice is, what is something in your heart of hearts that you really, really want, but have not dared to even admit to yourself?
Powerful. Yeah.
So when people hear that question, I say immediately, things are going to come up. I want you to write them down. So the second part of the brief is playing with writing. I hate to write. I hate to admit that. because it's a big part of my job, but I really struggle with writing, the blank page and all this. And that's why the questions are wonderful prompts, because the questions, it's hard to hear a question or see a question and not immediately have a reflex with an answer. Something always comes to mind. And so a lot of these exercises use those questions, the play of questions and writing, to help you open up your heart and those heart muscles. And so what you start to do is you start to stir the pot. You start to bring things out. And it's really fun and easy process, right? You're just answering questions and whatever comes to mind. You're quieting your inner critic or your inner judge. And the creative process is all about brainstorming or openness. Anybody has an idea. There's no such thing as a bad idea, right? Everything is valid. So there's a freedom and a safety of allowing whatever answers to come up. And because it's also private, it's safe. You're not asked to share it with anyone. The whole exercise is to do it for yourself, but to do it with writing. Because I have this great friend named Roger. He's a poet, and he puts it beautifully. Writing rearranges the furniture of our minds. Because if we just allow our thoughts to exist, they actually can be quite vague. We can leave a feeling, or a thought can come in and then it can go right out. It's very permissive. It's very loose. But when you write, it is an act of commitment. You have to choose words. Which words are you going to write? What's the sentence? And then once you write something, you are now in relationship with it, because it looks back at you. And when you look at it, it immediately, again, draws out a feeling. Well, that's not quite right.
I love that.
That's not exactly what I mean. So then you want to refine it. You want to sharpen it. You want to make it bolder. You want to make it more colorful. So now you're in relationship with this thing you've created. And all you've done is answer some questions. But it begs for you, because you can't stare at it and have it stare back at you and not feel whether it's spot on, like a fuck yes, or if it makes you feel, I'm not really sure. That's not quite it, right? You're going to have an emotional reaction. And that's where the fun really begins.
Right. And I think too, I'm sure you, tell folks, like, isn't it like what you do with this is still your choice, but don't you want to know? Don't you want to know, have clarity, right?
Yeah. But it's hard for people to start, I have these, I sell these life brief workbooks, and they're really easy, fun starters. It's very thin, but it's full of the exercises, and they're very easy exercises. They're very playful, but people hesitate to start. So I have people writing me who say, oh yes, I love the workbook. It's sitting on my bedside table. I haven't done anything yet, but it's just sitting there waiting for me. And I find people actually like to do it in community. So when people move from bedside table to actually starting to do it, it's because they're doing it with a couple girlfriends. So I have people who have bought like 5 of them or 6 of them, and they have a weekend get together. Or I have a couple, who decide to write theirs together over wine and a date night, or I have people who bought them for their teams at work. Because they want to all uncover. So there's a safety of community, which is exactly why you do the, soul purpose retreat. It's easier to come at the questions with others without necessarily sharing with others what our, very private and honest answers are. But it's fun to do it in that communal setting and know that we're all going through the experience together.
Yeah. And I'm sure you then learn so much from one another too, when you're really doing and processing it together.
Yes. I find when people share what they've written, people are like, oh, I have another idea for what I really want, and so they build off of each other.
Right.
It's a really fun process. It's a process of unfolding, I call it, just like life. Life unfolds, and it's a practice you can come to again and again. That's why I
Amazing.
call it a practice, not a plan.
Amazing. Well, we're going to go to a quick break and we'll be back talking with Bonnie Wan. This is Soul Purpose with Jessica Joins.
Hi, I'm Amy.
And I'm Gina from In the Burbs, where we talk about marriage, divorce, empty nest, and all the rest.
Basically, everything from motherhood to menopause.
The show is packed with experts, games, headlines, comedic guests, and much more.
We would love to hear your mom confessions, dating deal breakers, and the no shame hashtag game, where we take a humorous look at life's failures and fiascos.
We're in this together. We would like you to join us every other Wednesday at 4 p.m. Eastern on the UI Media Network. Catch us live on uimediaapp.com, WDJY 99.1 FM, WTTA 101.2 FM, Facebook Live on United Intentions, Spreaker, and many other platforms.
You can also watch us on YouTube, Binge Networks TV, and listen wherever you find your favorite podcasts.
If you want to connect with us, call us live at 678-495-4345.
Or comment on our Facebook page, In the Burbs.
There is life outside the city.
Welcome back. This is Soul Purpose with Jessica Joins, and we're talking with Bonnie Wan. I want to encourage everyone, no matter where you are watching or listening from, we have a great show tomorrow. Tune in tomorrow at 5 p.m. Eastern for the Health Matters Show, when host Dr. Nelson Bolmash will interview nutritionist Beth Shirley. Should be pretty interesting. And also, the United Intention Foundation Seeds of Intention and Sprouts of Intention. Woo! A lot of intention there. Planners are much more than your typical daily planner. They teach you how to be aware of your thoughts. Really important work. And you can get yours today at unitedmedia.myshopify.com. And we were just talking with Bonnie Wan all about her incredible work of the Life Brief, which, as we were just saying, Bonnie, it wasn't something you intended to create and to become a purpose within your life. It's really, look, I know you're still leading incredible strategy and doing incredible things with the agency, but this has really become a part of your purpose in life, right? Can you talk about what that experience has been like for you?
Yeah, so I talk about that. Actually, Charles Handy, who's a philosopher, talks about there's 4 types of work in anyone's life. There's the money work, which is my advertising job.
Yeah.
There's the homework, right, which is our relationships and our family. There's growth work, which is how we feed and fuel and stretch ourselves and continue this expansive, amazing set of possibilities, and discovery. And then there is gift work. And that's the work that is beyond our egos. It's beyond ourselves. It is in service of a larger purpose in the world. And I think the Life Brief has become the source and center of that gift work for me. And I think combined with the fact that it really does have a life of its own, that it's beautiful. And it's beautiful to get emails and notes and voicemails. Do people leave voicemails anymore? Yes, they do.
I know.
About,
I get them still.
Yes, rarely. And somehow on my iPhone, they show up a week later. But that's a different story. But it's wonderful to hear from people that their brief has come into life and that they're living their brief. And of course, there's no just one brief and done, it's a practice again. So it's the practice of getting clear about what you really want, what matters most, writing that down, sharpening that, and then receiving, like you said, and allowing the magic to unfold while you show up for every next thing in your life, but seeing the magic really appear. I think there's been so many moments that I could not have dreamed up in my life brief, but just by talking about, but being clear about what I want, and more importantly, how I want to feel, how I want to show up, how I want to experience something in my life, whether it's my marriage and my relationships, or my work, my career, or this thing called the life brief, which is my gift work. Being super clear, colorful, sharp, vivid about how I want to experience those things have just really attracted all of those things in bigger and more beautiful ways than I could have imagined.
Yeah.
So from that, that original story, when I walked in to quit my job to move to Portland, Oregon
Right.
with my family, the job said, wait, why do you have to quit? Why don't we just pay for you to live in Portland and you can commute to San Francisco? And I was like, what? And this, now telecommuting.
That wasn't on the vision board. That wasn't in the brief, right?
That's right. Like this show for you was not on your vision board. But it's so interesting how the universe wants to deliver, and not just, in the way you expect it to, but to over deliver. I guess the universe wants to over deliver on your brief.
Oh my God, I was watching, it was a Super Soul Sunday with Oprah recently, and Lupita, how do you pronounce her last name?
Nyong'o.
Nyong'o. And she was talking about, Oprah was asking her, she said, you received like all the stuff at once. And I forget the name of the prayer, but she said she'd been meditating on this prayer, which essentially is about, preparing yourself to receive like 100x than you can even imagine yourself, like opening yourself up to receive,
Yes. And that's that is what the process is. There's many ways into it, right? The life brief is just one. Soul purpose is another, prayers are another, but it's being very clear that you are ready to receive, because the act of commitment of writing it down says yes to the universe. I am committing to being ready to receive this now.
Yeah.
That is a very anchoring and opening experience.
Yeah. And it's interesting because, and correct me if I'm wrong here, in the way I perceive it, it's like sometimes we just don't allow that. But when you get yourself, and what I hear from you is like, you were in pain, you and your husband, your family, you weren't doing well. It's like, oh, I can't have this anymore. So yes, and it was like such a shift in your consciousness. Like, I'm willing, you had a moment of surrender, if you will.
Yes. Oh, surrender. That is the word, right? Let it go.
Yeah.
No,
yeah.
Surrender to what is so that you can open up to something new.
Yes. Yes.
And surrender is a very big part of the equation, right? It's not just to write it down and get clear, but then it is to come to peace with what is right now. So, yes, I want that and I am ready for it, but I'm also okay with what's happening right now, and I can embrace it. And that combination is such a powerful combination. It's like stirring the universal pot, it's stirring it all together for that magic to happen and unfold.
Yeah. Well, you'll love this, Bonnie, but at the retreat this week, we were talking a lot about surrendering to the present moment. And we're talking about a lot of Eckhart Tolle's work, who I know it's the book that woke you up like it did me, A New Earth. If anyone hasn't read it, tuning in, it's the book, man. And about surrendering to the present moment, and what could be more insane than resisting the present moment as it is. But when you do, you're blocking yourself from receiving. You're out of flow,
I wish I was there for that conversation.
I know. I was thinking of you. I was like,
oh my gosh, I will be there next year.
You definitely.
I promise. I'm not missing another year.
Yeah. In our last few minutes, my dear. So
yes.
How has the brief continued to shape your and your family's life? Like, how do you continue to use it? Like, what does that look like and feel like?
Well, this summer, I was living my big life, traveling around, talking in Switzerland and France, and, doing all this stuff. But I also was graduating from parenting young ones to parenting teenagers.
Oh, wow.
And I realized I'd taken my eyes off my kids. I just thought, oh, everyone's thriving. It's great. And I can go out into the world and live this big life. And no, my son really needed me, my 15-year-old. And we had a series of moments that were such gifts when I reflect on them, of saying, hey, Mom, I need you here. And because he was making some choices that were really, really scary. And so my husband and I wrote a brief for how we want to parent and how we want to show up in that experience. And so there's always opportunities that come up. And it was interesting because I have a reflex. I just whip out a brief. I'm very clear. I can get down, exactly what it is that's really important for me. But my husband went away and he said, I want to write my own brief with our son, and then we could come together. I said, great. And he went to the cafe one morning and he sent it to me. And I was just blown away by the depth of his thinking and his heart. And when I read my husband's brief, I said, okay, well, that's our brief. I don't know if you want to hear a couple lines from it, but he wrote, I want to parent from a place of positive discipline without reaction. I want to lead from a place of curiosity and respect, not consequence. I want to meditate on him, literally. I want to hold his essence in my heart. I want to continually work to see him for who he is and what he is experiencing. And I want to do this more purely every day with compassionate heart. I want to keep the long game in mind. Hold high standards, high expectations without being unrealistic. I want to challenge him to go to his edge, but never push him over it. And I want to create the opportunities that are conducive to him sharing and me listening, and allow for awkward silences, not to be deterred by the fumbles or mistakes, and make it perfectly evident that we love him.
Sounds like a book on conscious parenting you guys could be writing together. And again, just to reflect back to you, it's pulling the energy of fear and everything that represents out of parenting. That's when I hear that, that's what I kept hearing over and over.
And it's redirecting ourselves from a place of fear, like all the things that might happen. What if, and turning it to what do we want to create? What do we want to happen?
Yeah.
So that's the creative exercise, is turning away from, worst case scenario to the scenario we want to
Got
see,
it.
even if we don't know how we are going to get there.
Yeah. Well, Bonnie, we're about out of time, and I want to make sure people know how they can do the life brief and anything that you have coming up, the retreat. Can you give us a quick overview of how to take advantage of this?
Well, they can find out everything at thelifebrief.com. And that's where they can buy a workbook, or they can learn more about the retreat, which is this January, kicking off 2020, a whole decade, by getting really clear about what you want, and at the epicenter of nature in the Osa Peninsula in Costa Rica. And there's still spots left, so come join.
Well, thank you so much for being on the show, Bonnie. It's been a pleasure. And thanks everyone Thank you. And thanks to everyone for tuning in. This is Soul Purpose with Jessica Joins. Be sure to join us next month.
Take a walk with destiny. Walk on the trail of your life. Live your soul. We hope this episode helped you take a step closer to find your soul purpose. We will be back in 3 weeks on Monday at 6 p.m. Eastern on the uimediaapp.com, WDJY 99.1 FM, WTTA 101.2 FM, Talk10FM.com, and Facebook Live on United Intentions, Spreaker, and many other platforms. Jessica Joins is happy to hear from you, so make sure you watch and share her show, and also write to her on Facebook with your comments, suggestions, and questions. Wherever you are in life, it's never too late to uncover what makes you happy. Let us help you find your soul purpose. The United Intentions Foundation and its associates take no responsibility for the opinions and statements